There's an Instagram post where you said, the bigger the hole in your heart, the bigger the stuff required to fill it.
I would say that I think time dulls the sting of pain. I don't think the pain changes when we look back on it until we understand it. For me, defining what the objective was for quote therapy or self-work or whatever, simply as I seek to understand. And I think it becomes far less intimidating to go explore some of these things if you're like, I'm not here to change anything. Like you're telling yourself, right? You're like, I just want to understand it, right? And so for me, the conclusion that I've made, and candidly, this is also just the story that I might just be telling myself, so hey, who knows? But the story that I tell myself, at least, is that I had these massive insecurities about my father's approval, right? So that was the thing that was withheld from me, my childhood, adulthood. I mean, and for context, my father called me, and he pretty much said all the things that I'd done up to every decision that I had made was not a good decision after I decided to veer off the path of the job, right? Everything after that was a bad decision. And it was only when I had literally made more money than he'd ever made in his entire life that he said, you know, you're going to want to hear this. And I stepped out. And I was like, what? I'm at like dinner. And he was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, for what? And he was like, you know, for saying that you shouldn't have done this. And I was like, okay. And he was like, no, I think it was, he's like, but for the record, he's like, if it had been 30 years ago when I was coming up, I would have been right. And I remember thinking to myself, one, if I cared about your opinion, I wouldn't have done it. And so I had to break the sting of your approval when I was literally on my balcony thinking about killing myself in my consulting career. That was what was the painful enough to force me to make the change where I was like, well, if the alternative is death, then I can at least disappoint my father. That was really what it had to come to. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but that is what I had to. And that's why you probably often hear me measure a lot of decisions against death, because it helps me gain perspective on what is important. And so for me, I was like, well, I'm guaranteed to be miserable forever. And if I'm going to be miserable forever doing this, then I might as well die. And if death is what this is, then I might as well choose this and live with the disapproval. And so I explained that. And the piece that I think I delivered that I think stung, but I think the audience might appreciate, was like, I was like, you know that moment, I was talking to my dad, I was like, you know that moment when people get on stage and like, I just want to thank my mom and my dad for always being there and always being supportive of me. I was like, I'm not going to say that. I was like, because you weren't. And so you can probably hear in my voice, like I still have the anger that's there. But what I had to realize was, what I had done up to that point and up until maybe a couple years ago was I wanted to beat my father so badly at his game that it would be that he could not claim that I had not won. And so every aspect of my life has been built to be impenetrable. And so it's like, I don't want to just be in shape. I want to be so jacked that no one says that I am not in shape. I don't want my wife to be just a girl. I want her to be incredibly hot, incredibly cool, and fucking good at business and making money, right? I can't just make money or have a living or just be in the top 1%. Like, I want so much money. And the real reason is because I just want everyone to leave me alone and not hurt me, right? And that's how I built my defenses up. And so it was to be just an unhurtable machine, but it was just because deep down I was, right? And so the game that I did was to play a game that he had built for me. And so now the question that I had to ask myself was, what game do I want to play? And so it's been illuminating for me to try and redefine my own game. And I think that for me, my decision, acquisition.com, is the first business that is spawned from my desires rather than from the games and the variables that were set out by, you could say, society, dad, whatever, that I had to win, right? And so the new games that I'm trying to play are to die the person who gave the most. And so those are the things that feel aligned with my values, not the values that I was trying to prove to other people.